Every morning, millions of people open their eyes, already exhausted, not from sleep, from life. Some are giving everything they have and still watching it slip through their fingers. Some are seeing people half as dedicated move twice as far ahead. Some are quietly drowning in debt, family expectations, isolation, or the invisible wound of being overlooked. And after enough failures, after enough silent nights of wondering why, a thought starts to form. Maybe I'm just not built for this. But here's something no one tells you. Life doesn't save its hardest tests for its strongest people. Sometimes it sends the heaviest storms to the ones who are already running on empty. This is the story of a boy named Eli, and what the Saharan winds taught him about the only thing that truly matters. Eli grew up on the edge of a small desert town in southern Morocco, in a place where the sand stretched so far it seemed to swallow the horizon. He wasn't exceptional, not by any visible measure. While the other kids in his neighborhood were sharp, fast, and loud with confidence, Eli was quiet and slow to catch on. He struggled in school. He froze during competitions. He was always the last one picked, the first one doubted. The comments followed him like shadows. He doesn't have what it takes. That one's not going anywhere. He tries, I'll give him that, but trying isn't enough. He heard these things from teachers, from relatives, sometimes from people who claimed to want the best for him. Still, every single morning, Eli showed up. He studied while others slept. He practiced while others celebrated. He fell behind, caught up a little, then fell behind again. And for a long time, that was just his life. Invisible effort, invisible progress. One summer, Eli's family hired an old desert guide named Marcus to lead a group of tourists across a 4-day crossing through the dunes. Eli came along to help carry supplies. On the first day, Marcus barely spoke. He walked at a steady pace, not fast, not slow, watching the sky and the sand in a way that made it seem like the desert was telling him things nobody else could hear. On the second night, after the group had made camp, Eli sat apart from everyone. His feet ached, his arms were sore. He was the youngest there, and the work had exposed exactly how unprepared he felt. Marcus appeared and sat beside him without asking. "You've been quiet since we started." "I'm just tired. Of walking, of trying so hard for so little." Marcus looked out at the dunes, their edges sharp and silver under the moon. "Let me ask you something. Do you know why this desert is respected by everyone who crosses it, but never beaten by anyone who tries to rush it?" Eli didn't answer. Because the desert doesn't care about your talent. It doesn't care about your speed or your background or your potential. The only thing it responds to is consistency. One step, then another, then another. That's the only language it understands. But what if the steps aren't getting you anywhere? Marcus, turning to look at him. They always are. You just can't see the ground moving beneath your feet. The third day brought a problem no one had forecasted. A sandstorm, sudden and violent, came rolling across the horizon like a wall of amber smoke. Within minutes, visibility dropped to almost nothing. The group panicked. The tourists froze. Even the two experienced guides with Marcus looked uncertain about which direction to move. People argued. People stopped. The wind howled so loud that communication became almost impossible. But Eli kept moving. Not fast, not heroically, just forward. He'd been watching Marcus for 2 days. He'd noticed how Marcus read the wind direction by the way it moved across the back of his neck. He'd paid attention without anyone knowing he was paying attention. So Eli walked, head down, one hand shielding his face, each step deliberate. After what felt like an hour, he spotted something. A dark ridge of rock formations rising through the haze to the northeast. Natural cover. He called back to the group. They followed. They made it.
When the storm finally passed and everyone emerged from shelter, breathing hard, covered in dust, one of the tourists looked at Eli and said something he'd never heard in his life. "That kid just saved us."
But the real test came the next morning. Their water supply had taken damage in the storm. What remained was enough to get most of the group home, but only if they moved efficiently and nobody overextended themselves. Marcus quietly reorganized the loads. He lightened every pack. He redistributed carefully. Then he looked at Eli. "I need someone to carry the heaviest bag the last stretch. I won't ask you, but if you're willing." Eli didn't hesitate. He picked it up. For the next 6 hours, under a sun that felt personal in its cruelty, Eli carried more weight than anyone else in the group. There was a moment, maybe 2 hours from the end, where his legs buckled. His knees hit the sand. The bag dragged him sideways. A voice in his head said everything he'd been told his whole life. "You're not strong enough. You've never been strong enough. Just stop." But then he looked up. He saw the exhausted faces of people around him who were also fighting. He saw Marcus, decades older, still moving forward without complaint. He saw that everyone was carrying something, not just the bags on their backs. And something shifted in him. He stood back up, step by step, kilometer by kilometer, until finally the town appeared on the horizon. That evening, Marcus sat across from Eli at his family's home, tea between them, the kind of quiet that only comes after something real. "You were right about the steps. The desert doesn't crown the one who starts strongest. It honors the one who refuses to become a reason to stop." Years later, Eli became something nobody predicted. Not a celebrity, not an overnight success, but a man that people quietly, consistently pointed to when they needed to believe something was possible. Not because he had a gift, because when everything told him to quit, he didn't. And maybe that's the reminder you needed today. You don't have to be the most talented person in the room. You don't have to have the cleanest starting point, the most support, or the fastest progress. You just have to refuse to be the reason you stop. Rest if you need to. Sit with the pain. Let the storm pass. But get back up. Because the version of you that keeps walking, even slowly, even imperfectly, even when nobody's watching. That version will one day become the story someone else tells themselves when they're about to give up. If this story moved you, watch our previous episode, What You Can't Control. It will change how you see the things in life that feel unfair. And if you want more stories that teach you to think deeper, feel stronger, and live clearer, subscribe to The Final Lesson. A new story drops every week.